I didn't notice the world waking up outside my window that morning. Didn't hear the neighbor's car starting or the lawn sprinkler hissing. I just sat at my kitchen table staring into a half-cold cup of coffee, my mind drifting in and out like a tired tide. I'd slept badly again. My nights had been like that for years, restless, heavy, crowded with thoughts I didn't ask for. It's strange how a life can feel full and empty at the same time. I had a job, a home, friends I talked to every now and then. But somewhere inside me there was always this small, quiet ache, a hollow little room in my heart that I never bothered to name. I shrugged it off, took a long, shaky sip of coffee, and muttered to myself with a soft, tired laugh. "Ha ha, come on, Michael, wake up." That morning wasn't supposed to matter. It wasn't supposed to become the day everything in my life cracked open. I was just waiting for a package, just a simple pair of work boots I found on sale the week before. But I kept refreshing the tracking like some impatient kid. I don't know why. Maybe that ache in my chest was trying to tell me something, long before anything happened. Around 10:14 a.m. I heard the truck outside, that familiar rumbling engine, those squeaky brakes that always sounded like an old man groaning awake. I laughed under my breath, thinking, finally, my boots. But when I opened the door and saw the delivery driver walking up the driveway, my heart stumbled a little. He wasn't like the usual drivers, energetic, rushed, earbuds in. This man walked slowly, not because he was old, but because his steps were heavy, like every footstep carried a memory he wasn't ready to drop. He was tall, broad-shouldered but tired, with streaks of gray and a beard that looked like he'd given up trying to shape it. His eyes, God, his eyes looked like they had stories pressed into them. He handed me the box, but when our hands touched, he froze, just for a second. His breath caught, his eyes widened the tiniest bit, and then he whispered, barely a breath, "You grew tall." A strange warm flutter ran up my chest. I let out a confused little laugh. "Haha, yeah, I guess." He blinked fast like he'd said something he shouldn't have. He nodded, turned around, and walked back toward the truck with a stiffness that felt emotional. His shoulders trembled a little, like he was holding something inside. I stood on my porch for a long second watching him leave, my heart beating too fast for such a small moment. When he drove off, something in me whispered, "Why did that feel so familiar?" I shook it off. Just a weird moment with a stranger, just a tired guy making a comment. But my chest felt warm and tight in a way I couldn't explain. I went back inside, opened the package, laughed softly at how excited I was over boots, and tried to go about my day. But that night, that same warm tightness returned, because when I went to lock the door before bed, I saw a small folded paper on the floor, slipped under the door, almost hidden. My fingers tingled as I picked it up. The handwriting on the outside was shaky, uneven letters that looked like they were written through trembling hands. I opened it slowly, the paper crinkling softly as my heart started pounding. The message was short. "I never got to hold you when you were born, but I never stopped watching over you." My breath hitched, my lips parted without sound. A small, broken awa escaped me before tears even formed. And at the bottom, signed, Dad. I sat down on the floor, the note shaking between my fingers. I felt something warm roll down my cheek before I even knew I was crying. My chest tightened like someone was squeezing it from the inside. Dad. That word hit me like a truck. My father, the man I believed abandoned me, the man my mother always said walked out without looking back, the man who wasn't supposed to exist in my life, a delivery driver, standing on my porch that morning, handing me a package with trembling hands. Was that him? A shaky laugh slipped out of me. No, that can't be. That doesn't make any sense. But deep inside, something whispered yes. Something deep, old, buried, something that woke up when he looked at me that morning. I stayed on that floor too long. Long enough for my coffee from earlier to go completely cold, long enough for my hands to start trembling, and long enough to realize something terrifying. I wasn't confused. I wasn't guessing. I knew the truth the moment I read the note. He knew me. He knew my face. He knew exactly who I was. And for the first time in my adult life, I whispered a word that felt strange on my tongue. Dad? My voice cracked on the D. A soft, painful little whimper spilled out of me, like a child who finally understands something he never wanted to understand. That night, I didn't sleep, not for a minute. I kept hearing his voice, that soft whisper. You grew tall. The way his eyes softened, the way his shoulders shook, the way he walked away like he was breaking apart piece by piece. Something was wrong. Something was hidden. Something had been kept from me for too long, and I was finally ready to find it, even if the truth destroyed everything I thought I knew. I don't know how long I sat there after reading that note. Maybe an hour, maybe 5. Time didn't feel real anymore. It just hung in the air, thick and unmoving, like my breath was trapped somewhere inside my chest. When the sun finally began to rise, turning the sky into that pale gray-blue color that always felt cold to me, I found myself still clutching the note in my hand. There were tiny crinkles where my fingers had pressed too tightly, and a faint smear of moisture at the corner where a tear must have fallen. I didn't even realize I'd been crying again. I stood up slowly, legs stiff, heart heavier than before. My reflection in the window startled me. My eyes looked tired, red. Not from lack of sleep, but from a kind of sadness I hadn't felt since I was a kid. I whispered to my reflection, "What if it's true?" My voice cracked on the last word, and a shaky little ah slid out before I could stop it. I wanted to scream, wanted to laugh in disbelief, wanted to crumble on the kitchen floor again. But instead, I grabbed my jacket and walked out the door before I lost my nerve. I needed answers. I needed clarity. I needed truth, even if it shattered everything. The first place I went, my mother's house. She answered the door in her robe, eyes widening when she saw me. Not with happiness, but with fear. "Michael, what's wrong?" Her voice trembled, something she never allowed it to do. I held up the note, just held it there in the cold morning air. Her face drained of color. Her lips parted slightly and she whispered a small, "Oh," almost like she'd been avoiding this moment for years. I stepped inside slowly. My heart hammered harder with every step, like it was warning me of how deep this truth could cut. She sat down on the couch like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. Her hands shook. Her breathing hitched. She wouldn't even look at me. I sat across from her, my voice soft, afraid, fragile. "Is it him?" A long silence. A painful silence. One that made the room feel too small. Then she whispered the answer I already knew in my bones. "Yes." My breath caught. A little choking sound escaped me. I squeezed my eyes shut and whispered harshly, "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you make me think he abandoned me?" She let out a sound that wasn't quite a sob, wasn't quite a sigh, just a breath heavy with regret. "I thought I was protecting you." I laughed bitterly, a broken ha-ha-ha that hurt my throat. "Protecting me from what, Mom? From my own father?" Her eyes filled with tears. "He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. But he loved you. You have to believe that." "Then why did he leave?" My voice cracked as tears blurred my vision. "Why wasn't he there when I needed him?" Her lips trembled, her breath shook. "He didn't leave, Michael. He was taken away." Those words hit me like a punch. Taken away? By who? Why? How? I leaned forward, heart racing. "What do you mean, taken away?" She shook her head, tears running freely now. You don't understand. I can't. Mom, please. My voice crumbled in desperation. I deserve the truth. She closed her eyes and her voice weakened into a whisper. Your uncle, Dean. He never liked your father. He hated him. He believed I shouldn't be with him. He said your father was dangerous. My body froze. A cold wave of disbelief washed over me. Dean. The man who tucked me in at night. The man who took me fishing. The man who told me my father was worthless. I whispered in shock. He lied. She nodded slowly, shame heavy on her face. He convinced me your father was trouble. He filed reports. He convinced the police. He made sure your father was removed from our lives. A harsh gasp escaped me. My hand covered my mouth as tears gathered again. My father didn't abandon me. He didn't walk away. He wasn't the villain in my childhood story. He was the victim. A trembling AWH slipped from my lips as the truth gutted me from the inside. I whispered, "He went to prison, didn't he?" My mother's eyes filled again. Yes. A sharp, burning pain shot through my chest. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I whispered with a shaky voice, "For how long?" She looked down, voice cracking. 6 years. I closed my eyes tightly as tears spilled. 6 years. 6 years of my childhood spent thinking he didn't want me. 6 years of him missing my first words, my first steps, my first day of school. 6 years of lies. My mother whispered brokenly, "I believe Dean. I told your father to stay away. I blocked his calls. I hid his letters. I thought I was protecting you from a man who didn't care. I didn't know the truth until it was too late." A sob slipped out of me, soft, painful, almost silent. I felt 18 years of anger, confusion, and emptiness crash inside my chest. But one thing hurt more than anything. He never stopped watching over me. I whispered through tears. He meant it. My mother nodded slowly, her voice trembling. He never left this town. He worked nearby jobs so he could be close. He never stopped loving you, Michael. I broke. My chest collapsed inward and the tears came harder than ever. A trembling, heart-cracking release that I had held back my whole life. My father wasn't a ghost. He wasn't a mistake. He wasn't the man I was taught to hate. He was the man who stood outside my life for 18 years, watching his son grow up from the shadows. I wiped my eyes with shaking hands and whispered softly to myself, "I have to find him." I stood up, grabbed my keys, heart pounding like it wanted to burst out of my chest. My mother called after me, "Michael, wait!" But I couldn't stop. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Only one thought lived in my mind now. Find him. Find my father. Find the man who never stopped loving me. And that was how the longest night of my life began. I drove without knowing where I was going. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles faded to white. The world outside the windshield blurred in streaks of gray and soft morning light, but inside me everything was sharp, painfully sharp. Every breath trembled, every heartbeat echoed in my ears, and every mile I drove the truth dug deeper into my chest. My father, my real father, never abandoned me. He never stopped loving me. He never stopped being near me. I let out a shaky, broken laugh, a sad little ha 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 that cut through my throat. How did I never see him? Another breath, this one rough, almost like a sob hiding in my chest. He was right there, all those years, and I never knew. I pulled over near the park where I used to play as a kid. The same swings that squeaked when I was 10 still squeaked now. The same old bench, covered in faded carvings, still sat crooked beside the slide. Seeing it, something inside me loosened and twisted at the same time. I remembered being 5, maybe 6, playing with a toy truck near that bench. I remembered falling and scraping my knee. I cried loudly, loudly enough to echo across the field. I waited for my mom, but before she came running, I felt eyes on me. Not frightening, not wrong, just warm, watching, concerned. I never saw the face, just a figure standing behind the fence. Tall, still, quiet. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Kids don't question gentle shadows, but now, standing there as a grown man with shaky breath, tears gathering again, I whispered into the cold air, "Oh God, that was him." A soft ah slipped out of me, full of pain and longing. I pressed my hand to my chest as if I could calm the storm inside, but the more memories surfaced, the harder it hit. I remembered birthdays where I felt eyes from across the street, school nights when I swore someone was watching to make sure I got home safe, a baseball game where I hit my first real home run. I heard someone cheering loudly behind the fence, louder than my mother, a cheer filled with pride and joy, but when I looked, there was no one there. I laughed softly through tears. Haha, I thought I imagined that, but that was him. That was my dad. Another breath, a trembling one that left my throat tight. I sat on the bench and lowered my head into my hands. Tears slid down again, slow and warm. They didn't burn this time. They just fell, heavy and tired, like they'd been waiting years to escape. All this time. All these years. My father watched from a distance. He saw me grow up. He saw me fall. He saw me succeed. He saw me cry. He saw me laugh. He saw me become a man, and he loved me quietly from the edges of my life because he was forced out of the center. I finally stood again, wiping my face with my sleeve even though more tears slipped out. "I have to find him," I whispered. Even saying it gave me a strange mix of strength and fear. But where? He had delivered a package with a digital tracking number. Maybe the shipping company could tell me his route. Maybe someone knew him. Maybe someone recognized his face. I drove to the warehouse, heart beating like it was trying to outrun time. Inside, the air smelled like dust, cardboard, and engine fumes. The workers moved quickly, tossing boxes onto belts, scanning labels like machines. I felt out of place, but determined. A woman in a reflective vest approached. "Can I help you?" My voice cracked slightly when I spoke. I'm looking for one of your drivers. He delivered to me yesterday morning." I swallowed hard. He left something important. She asked for the address and pulled up the route. Then she pointed to a name on the screen. Route 18, driver, David Carter. My knees weakened for a moment. I had to look away and breathe in slowly, shaky. There it was, his name, my father's name. The woman added, "He's on night shift this week, usually comes in after 11 p.m. Night shift. That meant he'd be there tonight, just a few hours. My heart raced with a strange mix of excitement and fear. What would I say? What would he say? Would he run? Would he cry? Would he deny it? Would he hold me? I left the warehouse with my hands trembling so hard I had to grip the steering wheel tight just to stop them. That evening felt endless, every minute crawling like an hour. I paced my living room, whispering to myself, just a few more hours, just a few. When the clock hit 10:45 p.m., I couldn't wait anymore. I grabbed my keys, my heart pounding so hard it felt like each beat shook my whole chest. The night air hit my face cold and sharp. My breath came out in shaky little clouds as I stood outside the warehouse gates. Trucks rumbled in and out. Engines hummed. Workers laughed in the distance, and then I saw him, sitting alone on the concrete step beside his truck, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. His head tilted down, like the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. His chest rose and fell slowly, painfully, like every breath hurt. He looked lonely, so tired, so sad. Something in my chest cracked wide open. I whispered into the cold air, "Dad." He didn't hear me. He just rubbed his eyes with the back of his hand, and I swear I saw them glisten. He was crying. Seeing that, my breath broke in half. A soft, desperate awe left my lips and tears blurred my vision instantly. This wasn't just a man. This was my father, the man who lost everything and still stayed near me. I took a step forward, then another, my legs shaking as if I were 5 years old again, scared but longing for something warm. He finally looked up at the sound of my footsteps. His eyes met mine and the world stopped. His face softened. His lips trembled. A breath escaped him, a broken little gasp, like he'd been waiting 18 years just to see me up close. He whispered my name so softly, so reverently. "Michael." His voice cracked on the second syllable. He covered his mouth with a shaking hand as tears spilled freely down his cheeks. My own tears fell instantly. I let out a shaky laugh, almost choking, "Ha ha ha, hi, Dad." And that was it. Every wall he built to survive crumbled. Every tear he held back for 18 years fell. Every ounce of love he'd been forced to bury surged to the surface. He stood up slowly, as if afraid he was dreaming, as if one wrong move would make me disappear. I stepped closer, my breath trembling, my heart breaking and healing at the same time. He whispered through tears, "I'm so sorry. I never meant to leave you. I never wanted to miss your life. I'm so sorry." The sob that left him was quiet but heavy enough to split my heart open. And I did the only thing my soul knew to do. I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around him. He collapsed into the hug, arms tightening around me with a desperate strength, like he'd been drowning for years and finally reached the surface. He wept into my shoulder, soft, quiet, broken. Years of pain pouring out as warm tears soaked into my shirt, and I cried too. My whole body shook as I whispered, "I missed you. Even when I didn't know why. I missed you, Dad." We held each other like two halves of a story finally reuniting. The night around us went silent, leaving just a father and son, hugging for the first time in 18 long, stolen years. We stood there in the dim glow of the warehouse lights, clinging to each other like two people afraid the moment might vanish if we breathed too deeply. His shoulders trembled against mine, each quiet sob sending a shiver through my own chest. And I held him tighter, like maybe I could hold 18 stolen years together with nothing but my arms. His breath stuttered against my shoulder. "Michael, I thought you hated me." His voice cracked so hard it made my throat tighten. "I thought you'd spit in my face if I ever tried to speak to you again." I shook my head slowly, my cheek brushing against his. "I didn't hate you," I whispered. "I just didn't know you." A soft, broken awe slipped from him, like the sound squeezed out of a heart that had been starving for too long. He pulled back a little, enough to look at me, but his hand stayed on my arms as if he was scared I would disappear into the night. His eyes, red, swollen, shining with tears, searched my face like he was trying to relearn every detail. "You look just like her," he said, voice trembling. The words softened into a shaky laugh. "Ha ha ha," full of warmth and heartbreak tangled together. "God, you have her eyes, her smile, except when you're trying not to cry. That part's all me." I let out a breathy laugh that turned into a sniffle halfway through. "Guess I got the emotional genes from you, huh?" He shook his head again, smiling through tears as one rolled down his cheek. "No, you got her heart. You always did." We stood in silence for a moment. Not cold, not awkward, just full. Full of things we didn't know how to say yet. Full of years we couldn't rewind. Full of love that had never been allowed to speak. Finally, he took a shaky breath and said, "I shouldn't be talking to you like this. I promised myself, if you ever found out who I was, I'd walk away. I didn't want to ruin your life a second time. My chest tightened. I stepped closer. Dad, you're not ruining anything. This is the first thing that's made sense in my life. He wiped his face with the back of his hand, his fingers trembling. His jaw twitched. A little tick he tried to hide, and he whispered, I watched you grow up, Michael, from a distance. Every birthday, every school year, every little victory you didn't even know you had. I was there, behind the fence, behind the crowd, behind the window, always behind. My breath broke, a tiny, painful gasp I didn't mean to let out, and I felt tears spill again before I even blinked. He continued, voice cracking with every word. I saw you fall off your bike when you were 7. I almost ran to you, but your mother was already there, so I stepped back. You cried, and God, I felt it. I felt it like it was my knee bleeding too. His tears fell again. I was there when you made the school baseball team. I cheered so loud the coach looked over his shoulder trying to see who yelled, and I ran away like a coward. A sad laugh slipped out of him at the memory. Ha ha ha. I didn't want you to think some weird stranger was stalking you. I covered my mouth with one hand, trying to contain the sob forming in my chest. My voice came out barely above a whisper. I remember hearing someone cheer. Every time something big happened, I thought I imagined it. I thought I was just stupid. He reached out slowly, hesitant, almost scared, and placed his hand gently on the side of my neck. You weren't stupid. You were hearing me, every single time. My eyes closed as more tears spilled, warm and heavy. A soft "ah-wah" slipped out of me as my shoulders shook. He let out a trembling breath. I wanted to hold you so many times. You don't know. You don't know how many nights I went home wishing I'd broken every rule, every law, every threat just to hug you once. His voice lowered, but I couldn't. I thought I'd hurt your life more by trying. I opened my eyes and whispered, you couldn't have hurt me more than leaving me. He flinched slightly, not offended, not angry, just hurt by the truth he'd been carrying alone. I know, he whispered. I know, Michael, and I'll carry that for the rest of my life. The night air felt colder suddenly, or maybe it was the weight of everything between us finally settling. I sat down on the concrete edge beside the warehouse wall. He hesitated for a moment, then sat beside me, a little distance away at first, like he didn't want to take up space he didn't think he deserved. But I scooted closer, and his breath caught again, a tiny, emotional hiccup of a sound. He rubbed his palms together nervously, then said, there's something I need to tell you, something you deserve to know. My chest tightened. The cold wind brushed past us, and I felt a tremble run through him. He whispered, I didn't go to prison for what they said I did. I went because someone wanted me gone. I swallowed hard. My voice barely came out. Uncle Dean. His eyes closed and he nodded once, slowly, painfully. That man. He hated me from the moment I met your mother. He wanted her. He wanted you. He couldn't stand the idea of me being the one she chose. His breath shook again. He filed false reports. He planted evidence. He lied to your mother, to the police, to everyone. I didn't stand a chance. A sob slipped out of me, quiet but sharp as glass. My chest clenched with anger I didn't understand yet. He continued, tears running unchecked. I fought, Michael. My God, I fought so hard to prove I didn't do a damn thing. But nobody listened. Nobody believed me. Nobody cared enough to try. His hands covered his face as a soft cry escaped him. And worst of all, he took you away from me. He stole my son. My tears flowed harder, but this time, anger burned through the sadness. You never fought back? I whispered in a trembling voice. You never came back to tell me the truth?" He lowered his hands and looked at me with eyes full of guilt. "I did, over and over. But your mother shut the door on me every time. She believed him. She believed everything he said. I don't blame her. She thought she was protecting you." He swallowed hard. "I wrote you letters for years, 10, maybe 12. I don't remember the exact number. Every birthday, every Christmas, every moment I missed, I wrote about it. I poured everything into those letters." My heart dropped. "Where are they?" I whispered. He wiped a tear from his cheek. "Your uncle took them. He never let you see a single one." The world felt like it tilted slightly. A warmth turned into fire inside my chest. Anger, grief, love, everything tangled together. I whispered, voice trembling, "He ruined your life, and mine." My father nodded slowly. "But he didn't ruin this moment," he said softly. His voice cracked again. "And I thank God every day I survived long enough to see your face this close, even once." A soft ah-way escaped me as more tears fell. He placed a hand on my shoulder, gentle, hesitant, and whispered, "You came to find me. That is more than I ever dreamed." We sat there for a long time, letting the truth settle in the cold night air. And for the first time in 18 years, I rested my head against my father's shoulder, and he leaned his head against mine. Two broken hearts finally breathing the same air. The night wrapped around us like a quiet blanket, the kind that doesn't warm you, but keeps you from falling apart. Beside me, my father wiped his eyes one last time, but his breathing still trembled, each inhale shaky, each exhale heavy with memories he never wanted to relive. I leaned back slightly, letting the concrete edge dig into my palms. It grounded me, kept me from drifting away in the storm of emotions knocking against my ribs. My father glanced at me and I could see it, that deep, aching fear in his eyes, the fear that I might walk away. He swallowed hard, voice quiet. "Are you angry with me?" The question pierced straight through me, not because I was angry, but because I could hear the years of self-blame sitting behind those 5 words. I shook my head slowly. "No, I'm not angry with you." My voice cracked and I let out a soft little breath that sounded almost like a whimper. "I'm angry at the lies. I'm angry at what was stolen from us. I'm angry at him, at Dean, but never at you." He looked down at his hands, his fingers twisting nervously, and then he laughed, a soft, broken little ha-ha-ha, filled with disbelief. "I've waited so long just to hear you say something like that, to hear anything from you. I used to imagine what your voice sounded like, if it would sound like mine, or like hers." He looked up again, and tears clung to the edges of his lashes. "I never thought I'd live to hear you talk to me." That hit me so hard my breath skipped. I reached out and gently placed my hand on his arm. He flinched, not out of fear but surprise, as if he wasn't used to someone offering him comfort. "Dad," I whispered softly, "I'm here now. You're not alone anymore." He closed his eyes and a soft, trembling ah slipped from him. His shoulders sagged like years of weight finally loosened. We sat in silence for a moment, the kind of silence that heals instead of hurts. After a while, I whispered, "Can you tell me everything? Everything you couldn't tell me before?" He nodded slowly, and then he began. "When I met your mother, I was 22. She was the brightest thing I had ever seen. She laughed like the whole world was a joke meant for her. And when she loved something, she loved it with her whole soul." His face softened with memories that warmed his voice. "You were a surprise, a good one. When she told me she was pregnant, I cried, not from fear, but joy. I wanted you more than anything." A smile tugged at my lips, small and shaky. Hearing that, hearing him say he wanted me, something inside me melted. But Dean, He never accepted it. He'd loved your mother long before she loved me, and he thought I wasn't good enough for either of you. My father's hands clenched slightly. He made me look like a criminal, told the cops I threatened him, told them I hit your mother. None of it was true, but once police get involved, one lie becomes 100 truths. His voice shook again. They arrested me the night before you were born. I begged them to let me stay. I begged them to let me see you. I cried. I screamed. I begged like a madman, but they took me away in handcuffs. A soft sound escaped me, half a gasp, half a cry. And tears stung my eyes again. He continued, tears sliding down his cheeks. When you were born, I wasn't there. I found out 6 days later through a court letter. I remember pressing the paper to my chest and crying so hard I couldn't breathe. He paused to steady himself, wiping his eyes. When I got out, you were already 6. I went to the house, but your mother slammed the door in my face before I could explain. She thought I was dangerous. She thought you were safer without me. His voice lowered, so I stayed away, but not far, never far. I swallowed hard, whispering, "You were always there, weren't you?" He nodded. "I saw you ride your first bike. I saw you lose your first tooth. I saw you walking on your first day of school, that little backpack bouncing on your shoulders. You were nervous. Your bottom lip kept trembling. And I wanted to run to you and say, 'It's okay, buddy,' but I couldn't." A soft sniff escaped me as a tear fell onto my hand. I watched you grow taller every year. I watched you go to prom. Your suit was too big and you kept adjusting the sleeves. You looked so handsome, my heart almost burst. I was standing behind the fence that night, praying you'd be happy. He wiped his eyes again, letting out a shaky laugh. I probably looked like a crazy man lurking in the dark. His voice softened into something almost reverent. "When you got your first job, I followed you home that whole week, not to spy, just to make sure you were safe. Watching you walk with that proud little smile, it made me feel like your father again, even if you didn't know." My tears fell freely now. I didn't bother wiping them anymore. He looked at me with so much love it made my chest hurt. "And then one day, you moved into your own place. I remember standing outside your new apartment, holding the spare key your mother gave you. I looked at the name on the mailbox, your name, and I whispered it like a prayer." His voice cracked. "Michael Carter, my son, my boy." I covered my mouth as a sob escaped me. A trembling awe slipped through and I couldn't stop it. The weight of his love, his quiet, invisible, constant love, crashed into me like a wave. He reached out gently, placing his hand over mine. "I wanted to talk to you for so long, but I didn't want to ruin the life you built. I didn't want to open old wounds for your mother. I didn't want Dean to hurt anyone again." He took a deep, shaky breath. "But yesterday, seeing you up close, hearing your voice, it broke everything inside me. I knew I couldn't disappear again." A tear rolled down his cheek. "So I left the note. I just wanted you to know. I never left you, not once." I leaned my head against his shoulder again and he wrapped his arm around me, hesitant at first, then tightly, like he never wanted to let go. For the first time in my life, I felt complete, a son, a father, reunited in the quiet of a warehouse night. Two hearts, healing slowly, after 18 years of broken silence. We sat there under the dull warehouse lights for so long that the night began to settle around us like a heavy blanket. The sounds of the loading docks faded into the background. The rattling carts, the slamming truck doors, the distant chatter of tired workers. None of it mattered anymore. The only thing that mattered was the man sitting beside me. My father, my real father. The man I'd lived a lifetime without, yet somehow felt like I'd known forever. He rested his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped together tightly as if he was afraid his emotions might spill out again if he let go. His breathing was still uneven, soft trembles escaping now and then, a quiet sniff, a shaky exhale, and I could tell he was fighting himself, trying not to fall apart again. I didn't want him to hide anymore, so I spoke gently, quietly. "What happened after you got out? Why didn't you come back? Really come back?" He looked at me for a long moment before answering. His eyes softened and something fragile flickered inside them. "When I got out, I went straight to your mother, straight to the house. I didn't shave. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. I just ran there like a man starved for something he'd forgotten how to hold." His voice wavered, but she slammed the door in my face, like I was a monster that crawled out of the ground. My heart tightened. A small gasp escaped my lips. He ran a hand down his face and continued. "She told me never to come near you again. She told me I'd ruin your life, that you were better off without me. And the worst part, she believed it." He laughed softly, a broken, trembling little ha-ha-ha, not from amusement, but from the painful absurdity of it. So I listened. I walked away, but I never went far. He looked down at his calloused hands and whispered, "I worked odd jobs, just enough to survive. I slept in my truck sometimes, just so I could be close, just so I could see you walk into school in the mornings." A breath hitched in my throat. My chest ached with something sharp and warm all at once. I whispered, "You went through all that? For me?" He nodded, no hesitation, no doubt. "For you," he said softly. "Only for you." A tiny ah slipped out of me and my eyes burned again with forming tears. He continued, "I watched you through windows sometimes. Not in a creepy way, I swear, but just enough to know you were safe. I saw you blowing out candles on your 8th birthday. You wished for a bike. I wanted to get you one so badly, but I didn't want to scare you." I let out a broken laugh. "I remember that bike. Dean got it for me. I thought he was the hero." My father swallowed hard. His jaw tightened with a pain that almost looked physical. "He took everything from me," he whispered, "even the right to give my son a birthday gift." There was a long silence, the kind that sits heavy between two people who have too much to say but can't find the words fast enough. Eventually, I asked, "How did you become a delivery driver?" He smiled lightly, a bittersweet curve of his lips, and shrugged. "I needed a job that didn't ask too many questions. Companies don't pry into your past as long as you show up on time. And the routes, they were perfect." He took a breath, held it, then let it out slowly. "They went through neighborhoods I needed to pass by anyway, where you lived, where you grew up, where you went to school. It gave me reasons to be close without raising suspicion." He laughed again, but softer this time. "I guess fate decided to give me a uniform instead of a second chance." I smiled through tears. "That's why you looked at me like that yesterday." He nodded slowly. "I've seen you from a distance thousands of times, Michael. But standing right in front of you, hearing your voice, seeing your eyes up close." His voice cracked hard. I had to walk away before I broke down. I could feel tears sliding down my cheeks again, warm against the cold night air. "I thought you recognized me," I whispered. He let out a trembling breath, almost a quiet awe. "Recognized you?" He shook his head and wiped his eyes. "Son, I could recognize you in a room full of 1,000,000 people. You've been the only thing I've been sure of my whole life." My chest clenched with a deep ache. He wasn't dramatic. He wasn't manipulating me. He meant every word. I asked quietly, "Did you ever try to contact me again, after those letters?" His eyes darkened, not with anger but with sadness. "I tried for years. I sent a letter to your last address when you were 12. He swallowed hard. It came back. Returned to sender. Your mother had moved. He rubbed his palms together nervously. I went to the new house. Your uncle answered the door. He told me you moved far away. He told me you were better off without me. He told me if I ever tried to come near you again, he'd make sure I went back to prison. He paused, voice growing quiet. And he meant it. I felt heat rise in my chest. Anger, disgust, heartbreak. I whispered through clenched teeth. He controlled everything. My father nodded. Yes, everything except my love for you. That line, that quiet sincerity, broke me all over again. A choked little breath left me, half sob, half prayer. I whispered, "Why didn't you fight harder? Why didn't you break through? Why didn't you?" He gently touched my shoulder, stopping me. I did fight. I fought so hard. But I was fighting against lies I couldn't prove wrong. And I thought, maybe staying away would keep you safe. I closed my eyes, soaking in his words, letting them heal wounds I didn't realize were still bleeding. When I opened my eyes again, I spoke softly. "Dad, I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere." His face crumpled into a soft, emotional smile, trembling, fragile, overwhelmed, and he whispered something I will never forget. "I thought I'd lost the right to be your father, but you just gave it back to me." The pain in his voice, the hope in his eyes, the love in that sentence. It pulled me into another hug, one he didn't expect. He stiffened for a second out of shock, then melted into it, holding me with both arms, gripping the back of my jacket like he was terrified I might fade into the night. We stayed like that for a long time, two broken timelines finally stitching into one. And in that quiet, trembling embrace, I realized something. This wasn't just a reunion. It was the beginning of rewriting 18 years of silence. We stayed like that for what felt like forever, not speaking, not moving, just breathing the same cold night air and letting all the years we lost press against us. Even his breaths sounded tired, worn down by nearly 2 decades of guilt and waiting. Every exhale trembled. Every inhale tried not to break. Eventually, he loosened his grip, even though I could tell he didn't want to, and leaned back enough to look at me. His eyes were puffy, red, shining like glass under the warehouse lights. He wiped his cheeks with the back of his hand, embarrassed, whispering a little, shaky laugh. "I'm sorry. I'm a grown man and I'm falling apart like a kid." "You're allowed to," I said gently. My voice trembled a little too. "I am too." He smiled at that. A real smile this time, small and warm, the kind that carried years of sadness but also something new. Hope. Maybe for the first time, both of us felt like we were allowed to hope. After a moment, I spoke again quietly. "Dad, tell me about the letters. Everything. I need to know." His shoulders lifted and fell with a slow sigh. He looked like a man remembering cuts on his hands that had never healed right. "I wrote the first one the night you were born," he said softly. "My cell was cold. I used a borrowed pen. I wrote until my fingers cramped. I told you how much I loved you, how I wished I could hold you, how I prayed you wouldn't think I left because I wanted to." His voice broke and he paused, inhaling shakily. "I drew a little sketch of your tiny hand. I had never seen it, but I imagined." A painful ah slipped out of me. I covered my mouth quickly, but emotion still spilled through. "I wrote another letter when you turned one. I drew you a birthday cake with one candle. I wrote that I hoped you learned how to walk soon. I wrote that I wished I could have been there the first time you fell and got back up." He laughed softly at himself, shaking his head. "Haha, I was so stupidly proud of a kid I had never even held." He cleared his throat again, voice thick. "When you turned 3, I begged the guards to give me extra paper, and they did. I wrote you a whole book's worth. Stories, memories I hoped we'd make one day. Letters about who I dreamed you'd become. He blinked hard, clearing tears before they fell. I sent every single one to your mother's address. And your uncle, he took every single one. Every single one. My jaw clenched as anger surged through my veins. A heat bloomed in my chest and rose up my throat, bitter and burning. My father noticed it and rested a hand gently on my shoulder. Michael, don't let that hate own you. I lived with it long enough. It eats a man alive from the inside. I didn't answer at first. My voice wouldn't come out. My chest wouldn't loosen. He continued, voice softer. When I got out, I tried again. I tried writing more letters. Your uncle intercepted those too, and when I confronted him, he told me if I ever showed up again, he would make sure a judge put me away for life. He swallowed hard, and after everything I'd been through, I believed him. I shook my head slowly. He controlled everything, but he won't anymore. My father looked at me, really looked, searching my face, studying the anger there. You can't fix the past, he said gently, but you can choose what you do with the truth. The truth that sat like a storm inside me. I took a slow breath, trying to steady myself, but my voice still shook when I asked, "When did you get out of prison? What did you do after?" He leaned back, eyes drifting to the ground. I got out in the winter. The first thing I did was go see where you lived, but you were a baby. Your mother screamed when she saw me. She didn't know the truth yet. And when Dean stepped between us, smiling that same smug smile he always carried, I knew I had no chance. He paused, jaw tightening. I got a job loading trucks at this warehouse. Minimum wage, night shift. I slept in a small room behind the loading dock for a while. Not because I had nowhere else to go, but because the closer I was to my job, the closer I was to you. My heart twisted painfully. A small AWH slipped out of me. He ran a hand through his hair. Eventually, they let me drive. Delivery routes. It was the only job where I could pass by your neighborhood without raising suspicion, so I took it. He laughed through a sniffle. You wouldn't believe how many times I parked down the street just to watch you mow the lawn or get in your car. Every time you smiled, it felt like sunlight. I felt my throat tighten as tears blurred my vision again. He whispered, "I was proud of you even when I wasn't allowed to be." I let out a shaky exhale and nodded, unable to speak. Emotion clogged every corner of my chest. After a moment, I asked, "Did you ever think about giving up? On me? On everything?" He paused for a long, long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. "No, never." His voice softened into a whisper. "You were the only thing I ever got right, even if it was from far away." The words hit me like a wave. A sob jumped out of me so suddenly I couldn't cover it. A trembling, heartbroken sound that shook through my whole chest. He immediately moved closer, placing a hand behind my back gently. "Michael, breathe. You're okay. You're okay, son." Hearing him say son, it shattered me. I leaned into him, unable to hold myself up for a moment. He held me firmly, warmly, protectively, like he had been waiting 18 years for the chance. When I finally managed to speak, my voice trembled violently. "You didn't deserve any of that. You didn't deserve what he did to you, what we believed about you." A tear ran down his cheek as he whispered, "I didn't expect forgiveness. I didn't expect anything. Just seeing you, standing in front of me. That was enough." I wiped my face, though more tears replaced the ones I brushed away. "Dad," I whispered, "I don't want this to just be a moment. I want you in my life." He froze, completely. His breath hitched. A tiny broken sound escaped him, half laugh, half sob. You want that?" His voice cracked into a whisper. "You want me?" I let out a small laugh, soft and trembling. Haha, yeah, of course I do. He covered his mouth with one hand, tears pouring down freely, and whispered, "Oh my God, Michael, you just gave me everything back." We sat there until the cold became too much to ignore, and then, for the first time in my entire life, we walked side by side toward the future instead of away from the past. When we finally stood up from that cold concrete edge, I felt a strange weakness in my knees. Not from exhaustion, but from the weight of everything my father had carried alone. Everything I had carried without understanding. He brushed off his jacket, still trembling a little, still wiping tears that kept escaping one by one. And I could see it. He wasn't just emotional. He was bewildered, overwhelmed, almost shaken by the idea that I actually wanted him. He glanced at me shyly, like a grown man unsure how to act around his own son. "Ha ha! I don't even know how to stand next to you without feeling like I'm dreaming." I smiled softly, wiping my remaining tears. "Then dream for a while. I don't mind." He chuckled gently, blinking away another tear. "God, you sound just like her. Your mother used to say things like that. Soft things, gentle things." His voice trembled and he lowered his head for a moment, like the memory hurt and healed him all at once. We started walking, slow steps, not really going anywhere, but not ready to sit still either. The night had grown colder, and the warehouse lights flickered quietly in the distance. After a while, he spoke again. His voice cracked slightly. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I never said. Not to anyone." I glanced at him, my chest tightening. "What is it?" He took a slow, shaky breath. "I wasn't always a good man. I made mistakes. Dumb ones. Risky ones. Before you were born, I was lost. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how to love anything the right way." His eyes lowered, but the moment I found out your mother was pregnant, everything changed. I grew up in one heartbeat. I wanted to be better. For her. For you. Another shaky breath. I quit everything that could have ruined our lives. The drinking late at night, the gambling, the nonsense fights, all of it. I became responsible for the first time, because finally, I had someone to be responsible for. I let out a soft ah, feeling my throat tighten again. He continued, "But Dean, he didn't believe my change. Maybe he didn't want to. He kept saying your mother deserved better, and maybe I believed that too." He paused, a long, painful pause. "But I loved her, and I loved you even before you were born." His voice cracked again. I heard emotion trying to break through. "When they took me away, I thought I lost both of you forever. I thought maybe the world was paying me back for the mistakes of my youth." He exhaled slowly through trembling lips. "And when I got out, and your mother turned her back, I thought maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't good enough for you." A stab of pain shot through me. "Dad," I whispered, "you weren't bad. You were young, you changed, and no one gave you the chance to prove it." Tears gathered in his eyes again. He covered his mouth for a second, trying to steady himself. "I needed to hear that," he whispered. "So badly, Michael." A soft silence settled between us as we walked, the kind of silence that isn't empty but full of healing, full of new understanding, full of breath after drowning for years. Eventually, he continued, "Do you know what hurt the most?" I shook my head gently. He swallowed hard. "The day you turned 10, I stood across the street, behind the big sycamore tree. Your mother had set up a small birthday party, just a cake and a few kids. Nothing big." His voice wavered. "And when everyone sang happy birthday, you looked lonely." A soft, surprised breath escaped me. "You smiled, but it was small, almost like you were forcing it." I remember thinking, he's missing someone, and I prayed it wasn't me. A tear slipped down my cheek. That day, I remember that day, I wished my dad was there. My voice cracked. I didn't even know why. His breath hitched hard. He stopped walking. His eyes welled instantly. "You wished for me?" The words came out like a trembling plea. A tiny, emotional laugh escaped me. A soft, wet, ha ha ha. I didn't know it was you I was wishing for. But yes, I wished for a father. His face twisted with pain and love at the same time. A broken cry escaped him as he reached out and held the side of my face in his calloused hand. "I was there," he whispered tearfully. I whispered happy birthday under my breath. I hoped maybe, somehow, you'd feel it. I closed my eyes, tears pouring out. I think I did. He pulled me into a hug again, a softer one this time, not desperate, not frantic, just warm, solid, full of love he'd carried for nearly 2 decades. After a while, we sat down on a bench near the parking lot. The night was quiet except for the distant hum of trucks. My father rubbed his hands together, like he was gathering courage. "There's one more thing, one more truth, and you won't like it." My stomach twisted. "What is it?" My voice came out small. He looked at me with eyes full of regret. "Your uncle, the lies he told, the evidence he planted, the stories he twisted." He hesitated, biting his lip, emotions flooding his expression. He wasn't alone. My breath caught. A small gasp escaped. "Who helped him?" My voice trembled. He swallowed hard. "Someone very close." He paused. "Someone you trust." My chest tightened painfully. "Dad, who?" His eyes filled slowly with a mix of sorrow and apology. "Your mother." My heart stopped mid-beat. The world froze. My breathing cracked. A whisper slipped out of me, weak, fragile, broken. No, she wouldn't." He nodded painfully. "She believed him. She helped him. She thought she was protecting you." My soul cracked wide open. A trembling AWA tore out of me, followed by a soft, choking sob. My father reached out, his voice full of guilt and sorrow. "She didn't hate me, Michael. She was scared. She trusted the wrong person. She thought she was doing the right thing." I covered my face with both hands as tears spilled through my fingers. And that's when I realized, this story wasn't just about reunion. It was about truth. A truth heavy enough to change everything. A truth that would pull me face to face with both love and betrayal. And the next step was confronting the man who stole 18 years from us. I don't remember breathing for a few seconds, hearing those words that my own mother had played a part. It hit me like a strike to the chest. My stomach twisted, my throat tightened. A small, broken AWH slipped out of me without permission, trembling with shock. She helped him?" My voice cracked, badly. I barely recognized the sound. My father sighed softly, sadness settling deep into his features. "It wasn't out of hate. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She wasn't even trying to hurt you. She thought she was protecting you both from a future she didn't understand." I shook my head slowly, tears blurring my vision. "But she lied to me. About everything." My voice trembled harder. "She let me grow up believing you didn't want me." He touched my shoulder gently, a warm, grounding touch. "She believed the lies Dean told her. She trusted him. And by the time she realized the truth, she didn't know how to fix it." A small laugh slipped out of me, soft, shaky, painful. "She could have just told me." He shook his head slowly. "No, she was ashamed. She was terrified of losing you. She thought if she admitted what she'd done, you'd resent her forever." I wiped my eyes with the sleeve of my jacket, whispering, "I don't resent her." Then another tear fell. "I'm just hurt." "I know," he said softly. And the way he said it, so gentle, so certain, made my lip tremble again. We walked a little further, both quiet now. The night air carried a cold that slipped under my skin, but I barely felt it. Everything inside me felt heavier and oddly lighter at the same time. After a moment, I whispered, "Did she ever try to tell you or fix it?" He paused. His shoulders rose and fell with a painful breath. "She tried, one time, years ago, when you were about 15. But Dean stopped her before she could reach me." My heart dropped. He continued, voice soft and broken. "I remember seeing her, standing across the street from where I worked. She held something in her hand, looked like a piece of paper, maybe a letter, maybe your picture." A warm tear slid down his cheek. When she took a step toward me, Dean grabbed her arm and pulled her back. He whispered something in her ear. Her face changed instantly. Fear, guilt, panic. He shook his head, and she walked away. My throat closed up. I felt that moment slice right through me. I whispered, "That was supposed to be the moment you came back." "Yes," he whispered. "It was." My chest burned with a mix of sorrow and rage. "So Dean stopped her?" My voice cracked. "Yes." His own voice trembled. "He kept pulling the strings long after the damage was done." Silence pressed around us again as I processed every detail, every lie, every choice, every lost moment. My father finally broke the quiet. "But none of that matters as much now, Michael. What matters is this moment, right here." He placed a hand over his heart. "You found me, and you didn't turn away." A soft ah left me, one filled with emotion I couldn't hide even if I tried. We walked until we reached the edge of the parking lot. A single street lamp flickered above us, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. He exhaled slowly. "Are you going to see him? Your uncle?" I nodded. Anger sharpened inside me, carving a space I had never felt before. "Yes," I whispered. "I have to." He swallowed hard, his voice lowered, worried. "I don't want you to get hurt, son. Dean isn't the kind of man who apologizes. He builds walls out of lies and lives behind them, and when someone pushes, he pushes harder." A trembling laugh escaped me. "I'm not a kid anymore. He can't control me now." "No," my father whispered, "but he'll try." His eyes held fear, fear for me, fear of losing me before he ever really got to have me. I took a breath, steadying myself. He stole 18 years from us. I want answers, I want truth, and I want him to know what he did. My father nodded slowly, pain flickering across his face. "I wish I could go with you, stand beside you, but..." I shook my head gently. "Dad, this is something I need to do myself." His lips pressed together, trembling. His eyes shined with a new layer of tears. "You're strong," he whispered. "You've always been strong, even when you didn't know it." I didn't feel strong. I felt broken and rebuilt all in the same breath. But I nodded anyway. He reached out again, pulling me into a final hug, tight, warm, full of decades of longing. "Be careful," he whispered into my shoulder. His voice cracked again. "And whatever happens, remember something for me." I pulled back, wiping my tears. "What?" My voice barely came out. He cupped my face gently with both hands, the way a father would after finally finding what he lost. "You were never a mistake. You were never unwanted. And you were never alone, not even for one day." Another sob escaped me, small, sharp, and I leaned forward into his hands, letting tears fall freely. He smiled through his own tears. "Go on, go get the truth you deserve." I nodded quietly, and then, with my heart beating hard, my breath trembling, and tears still drying on my cheeks, I walked away from my father for the first time, not into darkness, but toward the answers waiting for me. The confrontation with Dean wasn't going to be calm. It wasn't going to be gentle. It wasn't going to be painless. But it was finally time. Time to face the man who stole nearly 2 decades of love. I drove to my uncle's house in silence. No music, no distractions. Just the sound of my own breathing, shaky and uneven, and the distant hum of the tires on the asphalt. My hands were tight on the wheel. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I wasn't angry the way fire is angry, loud, explosive, destructive. I was angry the way ice is angry, sharp, quiet, cold, a slow, deep ache that freezes things from the inside. When I pulled into Dean's driveway, the porch light flickered on. A familiar shape stepped out into the glow. Sturdy shoulders, stiff posture, the same forced smile he always used when he wanted to look innocent. "Michael," he said warmly, as if nothing had happened. "You're here late. Everything okay?" The lie in his voice made something in my chest twist. I stepped forward slowly. My breath trembled. "Why did you do it, Dean?" He blinked, confused, or pretending to be. "Do what?" I swallowed hard and whispered, "You know exactly what." His smile flickered, just for a second. Then he crossed his arms calmly. "Your mother called me," he said. "She told me you were upset. Something about a letter?" Hearing that made my stomach drop. The manipulation began instantly. I took another step closer. "So you're still lying?" Dean exhaled through his nose and shook his head like I was a child throwing a tantrum. That gesture alone made tears gather behind my eyes. "You're upset," he said softly. "That man has confused you. He always knew how to twist stories." A shaky laugh escaped me, a small, hurt, bitter little sound. "Haha, you still think you can control the story?" His face hardened for the first time. "Michael," he said firmly, "you don't know what kind of man your father was." "I do," I whispered. "I know who he is now, and I know what you did." His jaw tightened, the mask cracked. "You lied," I said, voice thickening. "You lied to my mother. You lied to the police. You lied to me." His lips pulled tight, but he didn't deny it. Not anymore. Silence often screams louder than words. "You stole 18 years from me," I said, tears breaking free. "You stole my father." His expression twitched, a split second of guilt, of panic, before he straightened his shoulders. "I protected you," he said sharply. "I protected both of you." He was reckless. He was irresponsible. He loved me. My voice cracked. "He loved me more than you ever did." Dean's eyes widened slightly. Something inside him snapped. Defensiveness, maybe fear, maybe the truth finally cornering him. "I raised you like my own," he shouted. "I put a roof over your head. I bought your clothes, your school supplies, your birthday gifts." "Because you wanted to replace him," I whispered. "You wanted to be the father I looked up to, and you couldn't stand the idea of her choosing him over you." His silence was the answer. I felt a tear slip down my cheek. My voice trembled so hard I barely recognized it. "He wasn't dangerous, Dean. You were. You were dangerous because you made decisions that weren't yours to make." His jaw clenched as the truth hit him. "You ruined his life," I whispered. "You ruined mine. And for what? Jealousy? Possession? Because my mother loved him and not you." Dean's eyes changed. Not angry, not ashamed, but empty. Like a man finally facing the truth he'd buried for years. He whispered, "You would have had a terrible life with him." I shook my head slowly. "You don't get to decide that." Another tear fell, then another. "You don't get to steal a father and call yourself a hero." For the first time since I'd walked up, Dean lowered his gaze. His shoulders sagged, his breath faltered, and he whispered, "I thought I was doing the right thing." You weren't, I said quietly. But now you know. He didn't argue. He didn't deny. He didn't speak. He just stood there, hands shaking slightly, guilt settling into his bones. I turned around slowly. I didn't need him to apologize. I didn't need him to beg. I didn't need revenge. I just needed release. As I walked away, he called out, "Michael!" I stopped. My breath froze in my chest. "I loved you," he said softly. "I still do." I closed my eyes as a soft, sad "ah" escaped me. "I know," I whispered, "but love doesn't make what you did right." I walked to my car without looking back. When I reached the end of the driveway, my phone buzzed. A message from my father. It was simple. "I'm proud of you." My breath broke. A small, emotional laugh slipped out. God. I wiped my tears and drove straight to my mother's house. She opened the door before I even knocked. Her eyes were swollen, red, like she'd been crying for hours. "Michael," she whispered, "I'm so sorry." My throat tightened. I stepped inside and she reached for my hands instantly, holding them with trembling fingers. "I was scared," she cried. "I was young. I believed what he told me. I thought I was protecting you. I didn't know how to fix it once everything went too far. I didn't know how to tell you the truth without losing you." I swallowed hard. Tears filled my eyes. "You won't lose me," I said quietly. "But things have to change. We don't hide the truth anymore." She nodded desperately, crying harder. "I want you to have him back. You deserve him. He deserves you." I hugged her, a long, shaky hug, and whispered into her hair, "We'll heal. Just don't lie to me again." When I left her house, the sky was turning purple with dawn. I drove straight to the warehouse. My father sat on the same step where I left him, head down, hands clasped, like he'd been waiting all night. When he heard my footsteps, he looked up quickly. His eyes filled instantly. "You came back," he whispered, voice breaking. I let out a soft laugh through a thick breath. "I told you, I'm not going anywhere." He stood, but slowly, like he didn't want to rush the moment. I stepped closer and wrapped my arms around him. This time, the hug didn't feel desperate or broken. It felt like the beginning of something new. He whispered into my shoulder, "I don't know how to be a perfect father, but I promise I will be a real one." A tear slipped down my cheek. "I don't need perfect," I said softly. "I just need you." He held me tighter, and the sun rose behind us, turning the sky gold. And for the first time in 18 years, I felt whole. I felt seen. I felt loved by the man who never stopped loving me, even when he wasn't allowed to. The story didn't end with a broken past. It ended with a future finally opening up. A father and son, walking into the morning light with 18 years of silence behind them and a lifetime of healing waiting ahead. And now I ask you, the one listening, if someone stole 18 years from your father and from you, would you forgive them? Tell me in the comments, because stories like this don't end with words. They end with the truth you carry next.